what do you get when you take the ultra popular Lancool 216 and the Lancool 207 and you put them together and they have a baby? You get the Lancool 217 because 16 plus 7 equals 17. For those looking for a high-end custom gaming experience, look no further than Falcon Northwest. Falcon Northwest has been building PCs made for gamers for over 30 years with a focus on a true high-end gaming experience. Custom cases available only through Falcon Northwest feature state-of-the-art testing and design to ensure that every component is performing at their best through thermal imaging and rigorous lab testing designed and overseen by the Falcon Northwest founder himself. With a complete lineup of systems ranging from small to large, every Falcon Northwest system includes a 3-year warranty policy and a year of 2-way overnight shipping coverage, providing the ultimate peace of mind. To see all that Falcon Northwest has to offer, follow the sponsored link in the description below. So lian-li is obviously very known for that stupid handle. Is very known for the 011 dynamic and that whole dynamic series. However, a lot of people don't even think about the Lancool as far as I'm concerned, which to me personally, I think is a superior case in terms of performance and value. So it performs very, very well if you even compare it to something like, dude, these things got totally, there we go. These are like little hook barbs. You can't get the case out if those are flipped in. Anyway, even like Gamers Nexus big mega chart review of all the cases and stuff still puts the Lancool series cases like right up towards the top. And we talk about price to performance, it's pretty nuts. Like for instance, the Lancool 217 is available in white and black, and it's $119.99 USD, pre-adjustments of price, I guess. For the black, and $124.99 for the white. White costs $5 more. They don't sell as much white as black, so it costs more to make. Anyway, before we do the unboxing real quick, we'll talk about what makes it the 217. But there's some really cool features I think built into this, and we have been huge fans of the, the filters aren't even pre-installed, okay, manual and all that. We've been huge fans of the Lancool series of cases because of their, again, price to performance. So these are fan rails right here. It has pre-installed 170 millimeter fans in the front. As you can see on the box here, there's different kind of orientations to put them based on priority cooling. So there's fan GPU mode and fan CPU mode. The difference here is just kind of forcing more air into the bottom side of the case to be sucked up into the GPU. According to their testing chart, their internal review shows that it's like half a C difference for the GPU. It's nothing major, but I mean, it is what it is, so there's that. But what I think is a really cool functionality of this case though is the fact that even the fans are toolless in this. So let me get this out. And then to try and give the Lancool series a little bit more premium feel, lian-li has decided to add, oh, this is gonna suck. Okay, well, as soon as I get the foam off, I think is what I'm gonna get shocked. Every time. Okay, I'm trying to discharge myself as we go here. I get shocked every time I unbox something that has all this foam and plastic because of the static electricity that gets built up in there. Ooh, that's pretty. Anyway, as I started to say, they are going for something came loose in transit. They're going for this premium feel of adding the wood accents and such to the case. That wasn't so bad. Okay. So as you can see right here, and it's a pretty minimalistic amount of wood too, haha, ladies. So we've got this wood trim along the top, and we've got this wood trim along the front right here. And then I think, is there any visible in the front? Yeah, no, a little bit on the bottom. So it's real clean. The idea is to make it something that almost looks like more of a piece of furniture, I guess, than a computer case. The reason why they kind of combine some of the aesthetics, not the aesthetics, but the feature sets of the 216 and the 207 is the 216 had like superior, oh, and the fan is what came loose. Yeah, so it is a toolless fan, and that's, I guess, something we'll have to think about. Anyway, the 216 was more superior when it came to CPU cooling and its layout and configuration, and the 207 was known to have superior GPU cooling with the mid-plate fans and stuff blowing up directly into the GPU. They've obviously added other features and things that have become more popular as time has gone on since the Lancool series first launched. For instance, this supports BTF or back to front type connectors with all those cutouts. Pre-installed fans, quite a few of them actually, two 170 millimeter fans in the front, as I mentioned, which are toolless, 140 millimeter exhaust fan in the back, and two 120 millimeter reverse blade fans designed to bring air from the lower chamber. Remember this guy right here? This was something we first saw in the Lancool 216, which we really liked. So obviously the glass stops right here, which means that we have this this mesh panel right here on the bottom so that these fans can pull fresh air from the side and feed it directly to the GPU. We also have our GPU bracket right there, which looks like it's actually going to be usable, considering sometimes these rails do not have enough adjustability to actually touch the GPU. Like for instance, we recently took a look at the Montech HSO2 Pro, and because it didn't have a long enough rail like that and it had these more predetermined stop points, it actually was a problem with our graphics card where it was either too high or too low. So it either anti-sagged and bent it up or didn't touch at all. So it was kind of a pointless GPU support. But because this one has a full-on rail, we have all this adjustability, and we have two rails available to us. That way, if it interferes with the fan or anything on the GPU, at least you have two spots that you can put it so that you're not stopping a fan from turning. Also, too, I want to point out the PSU mounting position is just like on the 216. So you can have a standard mounted position here where it plugs in like that, or you'll notice we have this little extension piece right here. The reason for that is you can actually rotate the power supply 90 degrees, mount it here, plug in the extension cable, and then your power supply cables, if I take off the back piece here, will actually point, we got more brackets here, dang, something heavy in there. Anyway, your power supply cables will now point this direction instead of this direction, allowing you to have direct access to the cables. Now, if you've ever tried to plug in or unplug something after the fact, it really sucks to try and get your hand down in there and plug and unplug, especially if you have drive cages and such right here. So I love this feature of, instead of buying a power supply, which has the cables on the side, which like Corsair obviously has the Corsair Shift power supply, which puts the plugs on the side, you can rotate the whole power supply and still have that same sort of feature without having to have a specific power supply to support that particular function. So you can see that we have obviously the BTF pass-throughs right here. We have a built-in fan hub and fan controller. So you'd be able to have all your system fans plugged into one area, being controlled by whichever feed you're giving it, whether it be CPU header, CPU optional chassis, you can control all that. If you're putting like an AIO, or obviously your CPU cooler could be using the CPU header, and then these could be on the optional. USB 3.0, the usual stuff. A unified front panel connector. I don't think there's any reason any case manufacturer should not be supplying a unified connector anymore, because it has become so standardized on the motherboard, the pin layouts, that this just makes it super easy and friendly than trying to deal with the individual 2-plug connector or the LED being two separated connectors and trying to get those to line up. This, because of the key, as you can see, one part is blocked out, means that it allows you to help index it the right way and get it keyed in there, and you don't have to worry about, oh, I'm off by 1 pin, so that's why the power button wasn't working. Speaking of power button, there are 2 power buttons on this particular case. We got one on the top right here, and we have one on the side right here. So depending on where your case is, if it's like down into your side on a floor or a pedestal or something, you can push the top button, or if it's on your desk, you can reach over and push it on the sides if you want to reach over on the top. So they do have 2 power buttons on here, which I think is kind of neat. And one other thing I want to point out, this part right here, the part with our grommets, this is flippable and reversible if you wanted. Reason why? This GPU bracket right here would impact an EATX board. But if you undo the perimeter screws, you can take that out and flip it over, and now you can support EATX. And it does look like that you're gonna lose, it does look like you're gonna lose potentially the GPU support, but what you're gonna gain is EATX support. Now, if you wanted to use this as like a workstation, you could take this out entirely, and now you have SSI EERB support, which basically this entire thing would be filled out with a motherboard, but that'd be for like workstations. And I think with the amount of people building workstations for AI workloads and whatever else, it's an affordable chassis that offers plenty of cooling to be able to throw in your Xeon platform or any other SSI EEB platform. Moving on, let's go ahead and take the front off, which should come off right here. The fans, as you can see, have these pre-installed grommets, which allow 1, anti-vibration, and 2, allows you to be able to just, kind of like the old school hard drives, they're completely toolless. So this is just basically looks like a bay cover. It's designed to be a gap cover. So none of the air that's coming in can like circulate back. It sort of blocks it off. But right now it's set into what they would call GPU cooling priority, which puts this fan a little bit lower. This fan is also feeding these two middle fans, as you can see right here, so that the air that's down here gets redirected back up into the GPU, theoretically. And I think a lot of the testing that we've seen with the 207 proves that it works. But if we wanted, we could even relocate these fans to make them CPU mode. So I would take this off, put it up here in the top, just like that. Undo this guy, put it up on the top, get it lined up. It's literally just like installing a hard drive. It's very, very simple. Let's go to this guy. So I gotta do this one first. There we go. And there we go. So now you can see both of these fans are lined up entirely with the upper section. So this is providing all of that airflow that would have made its way down here is now being channeled in the top portion directly to your CPU. And then you just relocate these guys down here for closing off this bottom section. So you can see without using any tools, I just reconfigured this fan arrangement to either prioritize, like I said, CPU, or we'll go back to GPU arrangement here. I think the toolless fan idea is awesome. I really do. And then this guy goes up here. So this is why you saw they came off in transit. Enough jostling, these could work their way loose, but nothing got damaged. As you can see, it's pre-wired in. GPU, CPU, and then obviously, as you can see right here, this is our front mesh. If you wanted additional filtration, that is where this guy comes in. That is not pre-installed, but you can, if you want, there. If you have a really dusty environment, so like pet hair, whatever, cat hair and stuff, you can add this one, and now you have the fine mesh on the front as well as the fan filter, allowing it to give you obviously a little bit more restricted airflow. Yeah, it's definitely gonna be more restricted airflow, but you can now choose between ultimate airflow, less filtration, or more filtration, less airflow. But these are two 170 millimeter fans. That is a lot of CFM. If you decided you want to use a radiator in the front, or you want to use 140 millimeter fans or 150 millimeter fans, you can see these holes that are in these brackets right here. Which notches you use determine whether it's 120 mil or 140 mil. So they kind of go like this, right? So either closer for 120 or farther away for 140. That's what these brackets are for right here. They're specifically for if you don't want to use the fans that come on the front. Typical lian-li screw kit comes with all the extras, motherboard screw kits, hard drive screws, 3.5 inch, 2.5 inch, obviously zip ties, additional grommets for like the fans. If you lose any of those grommets, here are the extra ones, which are obviously gonna be nice. Lian-li always includes these extra case clips as well. These are the clips that hold the side panels on, like these guys right here. So if you ever were to lose one of these, right? Say one day you're like, oh man, where'd that one go? My panel's not staying on nice. You just take the extra one and there, you're good to go. So they give you quite a few, like 4 or 5 extras of those, which is nice. And then just like I suspected, these are the drive cages that would go in the bottom. I like that they're not installed by default. I'm one of those people that tends to uninstall these drive cages to give myself more room for cable management. But I think they know now, a lot of people have moved on to SSDs, but you can fit 4 3.5 inch drives in this case, as well as 2.5 inch drives. Now that one's really stuck. There we go. So you got your typical drive sled, right? And then these are not hot swappable, so you're gonna have to have them wired in on the backside pretty permanently. But they are toolless, and they do have a few places where they can be mounted. There we go. So that's now locked in there. If you want to release it, pull up this little tab right here, comes forward and then it comes out. It's pretty much all that's in the box is just the drive cage. Let's talk about these mid-panel fans real quick. You can choose to either mount these here, and you can fit another one right here. This plate has 4 screws that comes off. If you wanted to add another fan or buy another one of these fans so they match, you could technically have 3 fans right here feeding your GPU. This one right here will be somewhat blocked off though with the power supply. There's not a lot of gap for the air right here once the power supply is there, so it would be kind of useless. That's why they put these 2 here. But there is also room to mount these underneath And they are toolless, yes. There is room to mount them under here if you wanted to make it a little bit less visible. Maybe for the sake of this video, I should just go ahead and do that and see how long this reconfiguration takes. And we'll do it all in one take. So here's the zip ties. I also feel like lian-li has sort of learned their lesson. Their fan wires used to be way short. Now they're fairly long, especially the Unifans. The Unifans for the longest time, they were way too short, and I complained about that quite a bit. Okay, so let's see here. Pop that off, popped that off. So we'll just undo these. They're just like regular fan screws. Oops. So I think it's important that we show all this in one clip. I've done that with motherboards too, when it goes like making everything fly off the freaking table. There we go. And they automatically stop where they're supposed to, so don't power them past that point, otherwise you can crack the frame of the fan. It would be better if I did it this way. Do like NASCAR, the lug nuts are already like stuck to the wheel. Did you ever notice that, Phil, when you were at NASCAR? Mm-hmm. Can you imagine if they had to line up the lugs? God. It'd be a real test of men versus boys. There we go. Okay, so we can, now that they're gonna be underneath, I don't have to wire them through this channel, so that'd make it even cleaner in my opinion. And we do have a couple of locations here. So you can see there's a set right there. And we can bring it all the way over as far as right there. But then we would have a non-square fan. So that's not gonna work. Put that there. Put that there. I think they should have come that way personally, because you might be looking at that going, well, then maybe that's because it won't support the hard drive cage. Well, no, the hard drive cage still fits in there with enough room to still have a drive on top of it. Now, it'll kind of sandwich to the fan pretty closely, but I almost feel like they should have come pre-configured underneath. But I guess the way they have it configured out of the box allows the most support without anything blocking anything, and would make it most optimal. This is how you get to the top, which, as we mentioned, haven't mentioned yet, is also full mesh. The top, as you can see, also supports up to a 360 millimeter radiator. I remember this now with the 216. I liked this because it actually gave you a huge amount of accessibility once you take this off, because the whole side comes with it. So when you go put the AIO and stuff in, it's not like you have to, there's a rail right here and you got to go like down and through. It's just attach it, and then this just goes right back on. So that's the whole top piece, which is removable, which makes it very nice also too if you forget to plug in your EPS and you have an AIO up there. You just get access to it. All right, let me get this sort of rigged up and get some power and a power supply in there, go into it so that we can do some airflow testing with the fog machine. I'm really curious as to whether or not we can truly see a difference in there. Okay, here's the setup. I got a motherboard in there to block off all those holes. I have a GPU in here for us to see how the air goes around it. I was hoping by jump starting the PSU it would turn on the fans for the GPU, but no, does not do that. I bet you if I plugged the 24 power pin into the motherboard and turned it on, it would turn, but whatever. The fans, two 140 millimeter Be Quiets at the top for exhaust, and I have the low power adapter from Noctua on all the fans. So they are not running full speed. Full speed on all these fans is ridiculously fast. I have no idea what the noise normalization is on this. It's probably somewhere around 40 to 42 if I had to make a guess, but that is a guess. So whatever, I slowed the fans down because I don't think most people will be running them full speed anyway. Not only that, we need to slow down the smoke so you can at least see the airflow, right? So we'll be checking a few things here. First, let's do the positive pressure test. So what I'm looking for right here is this vent in the back, this mesh. It's blowing out entirely, so that tells me nothing is getting sucked in through any of the ventilation that does not have a fan on it. So we want the fan forcing air, not any of the pressure forcing air to come in through the vents, which would be negative pressure. First thing we're gonna test right here is the side. We do have the fans move back on top, so I wanna see how the side intake works right here. There we go. So I'm just doing a little bit of air or smoke right now so you can sort of see. Now you can see it coming up. It's actually forcing air through the blow through as well as going around, obviously. So you can see those fans are definitely directly blowing air on the GPU, which means the GPU is going to get as much fresh air as possible, which is a good thing. If the GPU fans were actually turning really quickly right now, because they're not turning at all, you would see even more aggressive pressure go through the blow through, and you'd probably see it start making its way out of this side of the heatsink back towards the glass as well, because some of that's going to bounce back towards the glass, potentially get recirculated, but for the most part, there's so much pressure over here on the backside pulling the hot air out. I don't think it would recirculate. I don't think the GPU could overpower the case airflow. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do the front side right here. So I'm gonna put smoke in the bottom half. So you can actually see that going through the GPU, which is kind of crazy. So just like advertised, the smoke is getting picked up through the side right here too. Through the front, up through the blow through in the mid plate, through the GPU and out the exhaust. So now for the CPU fan, we should see a straight shot straight across. There it is. So you can see what they mean about calling it CPU, because that airflow is going directly across to the CPU tower if you had one. The top right here has no problem whatsoever exhausting, as you can see. But one thing you want to keep in mind is I do have the power supply turned 90, so the plugs are facing out the back. So that means the power supply is going to be exhausting hot air right here if you're under high load. If you're under like normal load, it's not going to generate enough heat to really be a problem, but it's something you should keep in mind. If you have like a 5090 hooked up to like a 1000 watt or a 1200 watt power supply and you're under full load gaming, it's going to get warm. This air right here is exhausting, but if you look, you can see it is getting picked up here. So you have hot air coming out here, and look, it's all getting brought right back in right there. So the power supply could potentially cause warm air intake here into the GPU. So keep that in mind. I think if you're using a high-end graphics card like this, it's probably best to not use it in a 90 turn like this. I think you should do traditional layout. That way the heat just exhausts out the back towards everything else. Because as you saw, and I'll show you again, we are going to get recirculation right here. So let me just get nice and smoky. And now look at that. See, this represents all the heat that just got exhausted from the PSU, and look at it slowly getting picked back up. See that? So I don't think you should use this in the 90 turn if you have a high-end graphics card that can generate a lot of heat on your PSU. Let's put the filter on, and let's see if we like completely gimp our airflow or anything. I'm gonna say probably not, if you wanna know the truth. It's so much airflow. Yeah, definitely not hurting it at all. Look at that, it's pulling in everything from over here in front. Like I'm even going way out here. All right, I'm gonna reconfigure these fans real quick. So now I'm gonna test the bottom right here. I'm gonna put smoke in front of the bottom and see where it goes. We should not see it going in the lower part right here. We should see it blasting right into the end of the GPU, to be honest. A little bit making its way down there. Because I mean, the air still comes off as a cone, right? So some of it's gonna go down there. Now remember, they were only touting a 0.5 degree improvement on GPU temp. I'm holding it right against the bottom. Yeah, so what you're dealing with there is because the air comes off as a cone, some's gonna make its way down there no matter what. Not as much as when it was down, in the lower position, but a nice to have, but honestly, it doesn't make a huge difference. All right, there we go. Lancool 216, almost called it 216. The 216 plus 7 equals 217. Let's talk about it. So, I mean, to be honest, the 217 just seems like a natural progression of the 216 and keeping it approximately the same price point, a little bit more. But no, this would have no problem cooling high-end hardware at all. The amount of CFM those front 170 millimeter fans can bring in, plus the 220 millimeters, which are also intakes. We have 4 intake fans on this. The rear fan actually exhausts a ridiculous amount of air, like surprising amount of air, considering we're still in the low voltage adapter. If we had taken those adapters out and turned it on, it sounds like a hairdryer. It is ridiculous the RPM range that these fans are capable of. So that's why we put the low voltage in there, just to make sure that it's more representative of maybe real world scenario. I mean, you turn even the worst airflow case with enough fan pressure and fan speed, you can overcome some of the defects and maybe bad design, but there's no bad design here as far as I'm concerned. The 216 and 207 have both proven themselves as, I don't want to say budget friendly case, but they really are by today's standards. Anything around that $100 price point, or in this instance, $119.99. I would have no problems using this and feeling like I didn't skimp on a case. You don't have to spend $200, $250 on a chassis to get good airflow and good aesthetics. The wood trim obviously is going to be a more personal taste. The white one comes with wood trim as well. It's a little bit higher, or a little bit brighter, or I should say lighter grain of wood, whereas they go with more of like this mahogany on the dark and more of like a walnut on the white. So it's just about balancing the tones. If you don't like the wood, that's the only way they're available right now. I don't know if they're going to come out with a full plastic version, but it doesn't look bad. I don't have a problem with the wood aesthetic. I think that's kind of the trend a lot of brands are going to right now. But as you can see, we can fit one of the biggest GPUs on the market right now. This is the 5090 Aorus Extreme from Gigabyte, so that fits in there no problem. It's even slightly longer than the Astral card, which right now we can't even use as a test because it has a water block on it. Can fit any air cooler that's available on the market, can fit up to 360 millimeter AIO on the top, potentially a 420, probably not though. They don't really advertise it as supporting a 420, but you can put three 140 millimeter fans on top if you have an air cooler and you just want as much exhaust as possible. It's a really good, well thought out case. It brings all of the features of the 216 and the 207. And I think a lot of people have said, man, if you just took these two cases and combined them, you'd have like the ultimate case for around $125 or less. And that's what this is. The cool part obviously is it moves itself into the future segment of being forward compatible with BTF, which is the back to front connector types. SSI EEB, not usually a major issue for people. If you've ever tried to build a workstation and you're using like an SSI EEB board, then you know the struggle of trying to find a case that fits in, because you almost only ever find rack servers that are designed to fit that type of chassis. But if you've got yourself a high-end rendering system and you're doing, I don't know, you have crazy amounts of RAM, you've got a big Xeon CPU in there or a big Threadripper or something, you can fit that in this, which is nice. It doesn't have to be a server type of mount. And especially with like AI workloads and AI engineers these days, that's the kind of stuff that they're using, obviously, with multiple graphics cards and such. Obviously, you couldn't fit multiple GPUs of this caliber and this size in here. They didn't have to support SSI EEB, but the fact that they are is a nice function, a nice feature. I'm just happy it supports EATX. So many cases don't support EATX. It's just nice to see a chassis that does. There was really no reason to reinvent the box, if you will. Just improve upon the box. And I think right now with everyone going to dual chamber designs and fish tanks and all these crazy curved glasses and stuff, which is nice, and that stuff all drives the cost up. Why? The Lancool series has always been one of the best budget-friendly cases. I say budget-friendly loosely because I think a lot of people would think of a budget case as being like 50, 60 bucks. This is one of those like, I want to fit my nice hardware, but I don't want to overspend on my chassis, and that's what the Lancool has always slotted in. It's never intended to compete with like their 011 series, but in my opinion, I'd rather take this than an 011 personally. This is where you guys sound off down below. How do you feel about the 217? It's one better than the 216 and 10 better than the 207, but includes the features of both. I think they could have called it the Lancool 316. Oh, but then it would have to have been John 316. Okay, I'm really on a tangent now. All right, guys, time to go. We'll see you in the next one.